Welcome back to The Explainer. Okay, today we're diving into something absolutely wild. We're taking a journey into the ancient text of Genesis, but definitely not in the way you might expect. We're looking at this through the brilliant lens of Dr. George Payton, a Bible translation expert who realized that one single ancient Hebrew word holds the key to unlocking a massive textual puzzle. Just one word. But as we're going to see, this single word acts as a hidden architectural blueprint for one of the most famous books in human history.
Okay, let's dive into this by looking at what seems like a glaring glitch in translation. Take Genesis 6:9, for example. The English Standard Version translates our key phrase as, "These are the generations of Noah." But then the New International Version translates those exact same ancient words as the account of Noah, and the Good News Translation calls it the story of Noah. I mean, generations, account, story, those are completely different concepts. How can modern expert translators look at the exact same Hebrew phrase and come up with such drastically different English words?
So that begs the big question, right? If top scholars can't agree on how to translate this phrase, how on earth do we find its true meaning? Well, we shouldn't view this text disparity as just a simple mistake. It's actually a brilliant linguistic mystery waiting to be solved. And to solve it, we can't just guess what the original author was thinking. We have to become textual detectives. Section 1. The linguistic crime scene analyzing the text. Dr. Payton actually uses this fantastic analogy for his methodology. He says that in a murder case, detectives don't just arrest a suspect based on some high-level theory of motive or opportunity. No, they go to the physical crime scene. They look for the hard evidence. What does the blood spatter look like? What does the DNA say? You see, when scholars debate the structure of Genesis, they often look at the macro-level motives, the big-picture themes. But Dr. Payton realized we need to look at the blood spatter of the Hebrew syntax. We've got to look at the micro-level grammar, because that is evidence that absolutely does not lie. Let's look directly at the specific linguistic DNA we're tracking here. We have ele, which is a plural pronoun meaning these, and Toledoth, a plural noun that scholars have debated endlessly, but broadly relates to generations or progeny. These two words are literally locked together in the text. Ele and Toledoth are equal in kind, equal in number, and equal in gender. This phrase, ele Toledoth, is our smoking gun. Now, let's rapid fire through these grammatical clues, because they are incredibly revealing. First, this phrase always appears as a verbless clause. Second, like we just noted, the plural pronoun perfectly matches the plural noun, so it's definitely pointing to multiple things or people. Third, in the Hebrew text, this phrase often acts as an inclusio, which is really just a fancy literary term for bookends. It marks a set, specific unit of text. And finally, if you look at the ancient Masoretic text, there is always a letter called a pei right before this phrase. And guess what a pei indicates? It's a grammatical marker showing that a brand new section is starting. Put all this forensic evidence together, and it definitively proves that Toledoth always marks the beginning of a new section, literally never the end. It is the starting gun for a new narrative. Section 2. Cracking the meaning, context is king. So now that we know exactly where the word belongs structurally, we have to figure out what it actually means. Dr. Payton analyzed all 39 occurrences of Toledoth in the Old Testament, and he discovered something crucial. Context is king. Depending on the setting, the context triggers one of four distinct meanings. If it's before a genealogy, it means general progeny or descendants. If it's in a census, like in Numbers, it means numbered progeny. In narratives involving patriarchs like Noah or Terah, it focuses specifically on their immediate male offspring. But then, we hit the fourth category, Genesis 2:4, and things get wonderfully weird. Genesis 2:4 says, "These are the Toledoth of the heavens and the earth," and this right here immediately precedes the story of Adam and Eve. Now, ask yourself this rhetorical question. Did the dirt and the sky literally get together and give birth to Adam and Eve? No, obviously not. The earth is completely passive in the creation account. So how on earth can the heavens and the earth have Toledoth or progeny? Now, what's really interesting about this is how the text solves this riddle. It uses a literary device called metonymy. Think of the phrase Ophir's gold used elsewhere in the Old Testament. It doesn't mean the land of Ophir literally sprouted gold like a plant. It means gold that was extracted from Ophir. In the exact same way, Toledoth at the earth is a metaphor. Where did God get the dirt to make Adam? From the earth. So Adam and Eve are the figurative progeny, the people created out of the location of the heavens and the earth. It is just a beautifully poetic usage of the word. Section 3, the master's structural thread. Let's zoom out to the macro structure. This brings us to a brilliant concept called tailhead linkage, and honestly, it is the structural genius of Genesis. Imagine a relay race, where a baton is perfectly passed from one runner to the next. That is exactly what Toledoth does. The narrative of Adam and Eve naturally concludes by bringing a character named Seth into focus. What happens next? A new section begins with the Toledoth of Seth. That section eventually ends by focusing on Noah, and boom, the very next section begins with the Toledoth of Noah. The end, or the tail, of one narrative perfectly links right to the head of the next. Toledoth is the hinge that joins the time, the location, and the characters seamlessly together.
But it's doing way more than just giving us a dry list of names. This single word weaves together the entire central theology of Genesis into a cohesive chord. God's promises to the patriarchs are deeply connected to the word zerah, which means seed. The Toledoth tracks this chosen seed through the generations. It tracks the covenant, and absolutely crucially, it tracks righteous worship. Think about it. Adam, Seth, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Everywhere these chosen men went, they built altars. They worshipped. Toledoth links this incredible lineage of worshipers from generation to generation. And the text visually reinforces this focus too. Genesis separates the main characters from the supporting characters structurally. The chosen storyline, the people with that deep covenantal connection to God, are presented in what scholars call linear genealogies. It's a direct, fast-moving line. Meanwhile, the non-chosen descendants, like Ishmael or Esau, are given segmented genealogies. They get mentioned, they get these detailed, sprawling family trees, but then the text just moves on. The Toledoth formula is like a camera lens. It always snaps the focus right back to that main linear storyline.
Section 4. Implications for translation. Why this all matters.
It matters immensely for the everyday reader because of translation. If a modern Bible translation constantly changes the English word for Toledoth, calling it story here, account there, and generations somewhere else, it effectively erases the original author's structural map. The everyday reader completely misses the baton pass. They miss that tailhead linkage. Dr. Payton argues that by consistently translating Toledoth as progeny or a similar unifying phrase, we reveal that hidden map. We allow the modern reader to see the exact same cohesive chord of the divine-human relationship that the ancient Hebrews saw. And that brilliantly illustrates the power of digging deep into the original text, which leaves us with this final provocative thought to chew on. If a single ancient Hebrew word properly understood can completely reframe the architectural structure of an entire book, what other hidden threads are out there just waiting to be pulled? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking these big questions, keep pulling the threads, and I'll see you next time.